Lynnell,
Hello,
did
my
I
friend.
hear you right earlier this week that you said you still feel that Darryn Peterson is still the best player in college basketball and should still be viewed as the number one pick after his latest absence?
It doesn't matter to me. First of all, hello, Josh. Good evening to our listening audience. It doesn't matter to me all the scuttlebutt and people overreacting to him missing games, because when he is on the floor, as we've seen a lot throughout the course of this season, his talent shines bright like a diamond. He is the clear-cut. I don't want to say clear-cut because it's a loaded draft, as we know, Josh. But, yeah, I'm not worried about the scuttlebutt. He's the best player in the land.
It is important what you noted there at the end. When you have preferences between the top players in this draft, choosing one over another doesn't mean you think that these players, any of them, are bad.
Right.
This is a tremendously loaded draft class. We are comparing supermodels next to supermodels. If you say you prefer Kate Upton over Brooklyn Decker, that doesn't mean that you think Brooklyn Decker's a dog.
That'd be
Right?
a bad take, by the way, too.
Let's
I just wanna
acknowledge
say.
that on the front end. But Darryn Peterson should no longer be viewed as the NBA shoe-in to be the number one pick. He's not the top draft prospect. He's certainly not the best player in college basketball, and here's why. Compared to the other top players in this class, he's not a gamer. He missed 11 so far of Kansas's 24 games. Now, to be fair, when it was cramping, when it was an ankle or his hamstring, that's understandable. Soft tissue injuries, they've been a plague in the NBA. He wouldn't want to risk an Achilles injury. That'd be brutal. But sitting out because he has a cold after he went through warm-ups against the number one team in the country, that's where the line gets drawn for me. Because I've seen him in person a couple times this year, and I saw one of the games that he just didn't play in the second half, and his team is fighting at NC State in Raleigh, and he was disengaged there on the bench. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't cheering.
Maybe he was frustrated. Wouldn't you be?
Maybe
If you were missing one of the biggest games of the season because of an injury and you're down
At
in
NC
the
State.
clutch.
At NC
It
State,
doesn't
hardly
matter.
one of the biggest
You
games
get the point.
of the
You're
season.
You're missing a key game. Every game matters. You know this.
Be a good teammate is what I'm saying. And he's just sitting there not talking to guys during the timeout. I know. I'm right behind the bench watching this. And this isn't old college sports where you'd say, Josh, you're being so hard. He's a college kid. These are amateurs. My man's getting paid reportedly $3 million to play.
Because that's what
And
it's
he can't
worth.
be counted on. He can't be counted on. There was a report today from On3 that said, you're getting paid what you're worth. When you're playing in just 13 of the 24 games, you have people asking whether or not it'd be wise to pay three guys $1 million than paying you $3 million when you're only playing in half the games. So if you're a team, you should either be concerned, an NBA team, you should be concerned when comparing him next to DeBonsa and next to Caleb Wilson and Cam Boozer about lack of gamesmanship, about the hamstring ankle deal. I'm not the only one thinking this either, because here was ESPN's Seth Greenberg on Outkick earlier this morning.
He lost me yesterday, or the day before yesterday. He lost me. I talked to some of his people, and they said, you know what, the university, Bill, and the kid's family are all in line. But when I got a cold or I got the flu, come on, man. You were out on the court. You were warming up. Sometimes, you know what you do? You get an IV, you get some cold tablets, you go out and you hoop. That's just the way it is. If you're a competitor, you do that. Now,
I just think it's a total
Hold on one second.
man.
We heard you earlier this week, Lynnell. This is the take the other side. If he's not the best player, then who is? A.J. DeBonsa's everything that you want. A day after Darryn sat with the cold, with a little flu, A.J. played all 40 minutes and scored 36 points. Darryn Peterson hasn't played more than 35 minutes in a game this year, and only 5 or 6 times has cracked 30 minutes in a game. Meanwhile, Dabonsa has played in all 24 of BYU's games. He leads the nation in scoring. He's a physical freak at 6'9", 210. God doesn't make many athletes quite like that. And personally, Peterson, in my eyes, isn't even the second best player in the country because Caleb Wilson's ahead of him too. Yes, Wilson in front of Cam Boozer as well. You might not see it in mock drafts, but I have my two eyeballs, and I'm telling you, I'm at a handful of North Carolina games. I'm at Duke games. I've seen Darryn Peterson in person twice this year. I watch college basketball every night. So don't cite all these NBA mock drafts. I hadn't seen those mock draft artists at all these games. I'm telling you what I see. Wilson, here's what I know. Caleb Wilson has faced Peterson, Dabonsa, and Cam Boozer on the court this year. And guess what? Wilson was better than them all three of those nights. And this is something, again, that I knocked Peterson for. Last night, Caleb Wilson hurts his hand. He goes back to the locker room. His mama goes back to the locker room to check on him. Darryn Peterson isn't returning after that. Caleb Wilson does. And then he has a freaky dunk and a couple crazy blocks. He's the reason why, Lynnell, it's so important to watch basketball in person. This might be something that D-Day can attest to, watching Caleb up close at the Duke-Carolina game last weekend. This guy's an energy factory in ways that might not translate on television. What he does on loose balls, how he gets the crowd fired up, how he gets his teammates engaged and fired up. That's something I see out of Caleb Wilson, and I don't see an ounce of that out of Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson looks like a guy who's trying to do the bare minimum before getting to the NBA. And these other guys that you might have an option to take
this is it,
right next
when
to
he's
him,
doing 20 points per game as a freshman at one of the biggest universities in the country and one of the best conferences in the country, scoring 20 a game is not enough. And him, you're nitpicking, it feels like. Everyone across the country is nitpicking.
Again,
this is one small snapshot of his college career.
Where we started here is, because we're choosing one or two guys over Peterson doesn't mean we say Peterson's terrible. But do you know what's more impressive than 20 a game in the Big 12 in 13 games? How about 24 a game leading the nation in the same conference and playing in all 24 games and playing 40 minutes earlier this week because his team needed it?
And when the two went head-to-head, Darryn Peterson outplayed him thoroughly.
He played in one half. What are you talking about?
And in the one half and in the 18 minutes that we saw him, he was the best player on the floor. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, but then he didn't play in the second half, and that counts.
This is the thing to me that needs to be stressed when we have this conversation, and I think you hit on it a second ago. I think I can agree with you in terms of, maybe not agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. In terms of this idea of, okay, maybe there is no clear-cut number one player in the country because we're talking about one of the best draft classes in the history of the NBA draft. I mean, we have never seen a loaded class like this. We're only talking about the top three. You got Kingston Fleming from Houston. You got the kid Keaton Wagler out in Illinois. There are dudes everywhere. Darius Acuff over at Arkansas. There are dudes everywhere. Caleb Wilson, who we've talked about here. This is a loaded class. I think it's going to go down as better than the 03 class that featured, D. Wade and Bron. Like, I think this is that type of class. There are 7 to 9 guys. And tell me if I'm overreacting on this, Josh. To me, there are 7 to 9 prospects that you can comfortably look your ownership group in the face and go, yeah, he's going to be the guy that turns us around and gets us out of the lottery and back to being a contender. I think this class is going to reinvigorate the NBA in terms of there are a lot of teams right now, because of the way the lotteries worked, that are bad. And the lottery luck makes you fall to the 6th pick or the 7th pick. You can pick there this year, Josh, and unlike, recent drafts, you can get a star at that spot, a franchise-altering talent. So while I think you're nitpicking at Darryn Peterson in particular, I love the class.
No, again, all of these guys, to your point, these are 4 tremendous players. But Darryn Peterson's making it very easy to be nitpicked against in ways that you can't nitpick these other guys. That's where I'm getting at. And I am a huge DeBonsa fan. That's the guy that I look at and say,
Yeah.
there's nothing. To me, that is clear-cut. To me,
Yeah.
he is the clear-cut number one pick in the draft. To me, he's the clear-cut best player in college basketball, even more than some of the older guys like Braden Smith at Purdue and some of the other ones you could rattle off. He, to me, is the best player in the country, and I'd take Caleb Wilson before I take Darryn Peterson. And there are folks who don't follow college basketball until right now that football's over, that just scan mock drafts to see who their NBA team might be taking, that won't see one mock draft that has Caleb Wilson any higher than number 4. I'm telling you right now, as somebody who follows the sport closely, who goes to these games, Caleb Wilson's better than Cam Boozer. And Caleb Wilson's every bit as good as Darryn Peterson can be because of all the nonsense that we're referring to here.